We talked about last week when we did the Informer that the AFL season is not only topsy-turvy, but every week, every round, something new is cropping up to make news headlines. Alex Caiafa is back. He's our journo who covers the AFL. Alex, welcome back to the Informer. What have you made of the past week? Could you believe some of the results? And some of the teams that we thought at the beginning of the season would be the key players have fallen off the perch.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. It's just 2020 happening again.
Okay, so take me through it. What did you make of the week?
Oh, look, strange results, some close games, plenty of talk about the game, being in absolute tatters at the moment because of, holding the balls not being called. There's just not enough scores. And, then we're back to the COVID breaches. We're back to hubs being a huge talk again. It's all happened in the past week.
Now, you touched on hubs. We're hearing names like Hobart. We're hearing names like Darwin. Only a couple of weeks ago, we weren't going to require hubs. Now suddenly it's all back on because of the spike in Victoria and the need for the Victorian clubs to get out there and play some football. What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to see teams end up in say, for example, South Australia, where the Premier of Victoria said, why would you go to South Australia? Well, we do know, because there's a hub for our football teams.
Well, we're going to need South Australia now, that's for sure, because teams can't, by the looks of it, can't stay in Victoria. So would not shock me if we're getting 2 to 3 teams in New South Wales. We might get a couple in South Australia. We'll get, Collingwood and Geelong already in Perth.
But hang on a minute. We were told by the Victorian Premier and also by the New South Wales Premier that Victorians aren't welcome. And equally, New South Wales men and women are not being encouraged to come down under. So how does this all work out?
I just think the best way they're going to have to do it is maybe a 2-week period where we just have a bye for a couple of weeks, so teams have to quarantine, and then we get it all flowing again.
We saw the rugby league, the NRL, change the rules between the first part of the season and the so-called restart, and the game is flowing. In fact, the rules have actually given rugby league a real boost. Do we have to consider something like that for the AFL?
I don't believe the rules are that bad, but what I do feel is making a huge impact is the interchanges. I think that the interchange cap is way too high. I really think they need to bring that down to around 40. And then the fatigue comes in, because when you're fatigued as an athlete, you're not always thereabouts.
You're making mistakes.
And that's when the game gets up and down and up and down. It starts getting flowing a little bit more. So I believe if they kept the interchange bench a little bit lower, we could see a real spike in scoring.
Talk to us about this round of football. Who's going to play and who's winning?
So tonight we've got Carlton and St Kilda down at Marvel Stadium.
Now this was meant to be the Saturday game at the MCG. Why has it moved?
Because of the Queensland government changing Victorian teams. Whoever's from Victoria will have to do a 2-week quarantine. So now they've had to reshuffle the fixture, and it looks like that more reshufflings to come. But that's
this
why.
Plays into the hands of all the St Kilda fans, because they love Marvel.
Absolutely, it does. They've won 4 of the last 5 against Carlton and 5 of the last 7 at Marvel.
So you're picking St Kilda to beat Carlton tonight?
As much as I don't want to,
All right. Tomorrow. Now, it's been a big week for Collingwood, and not for the right reasons. Their vice-captain, Steele Sidebottom, did anything but play up to that name. He went out, he's supposed to be an elite athlete, playing an elite sport, and yet he behaved like a young kid, barely out of his teens.
It's very disappointing by Steele as well, because he's in their leadership group. He's one of their experience.
Can he remain in the leadership group? Now, I've heard the president jump up and say very quickly, nothing to prosecute here. I'm the president, and he will remain the vice captain of the club. Is that possible?
It shouldn't be possible, but
it's Collingwood.
It's Collingwood, and
so Collingwood, can they get back onto the winning trail?
Yeah, I believe they will. Essendon missing Zach Merritt as well is huge for Essendon, because Zach Merritt's their top 2 midfielder, and missing him this week.
Key driver for them.
So missing him this week, even though the Pies are missing Steele and have lost Jeremy Howe basically for the season, I think they've just got too much depth.
Okay, next game?
Next game we've got West Coast against Sydney down at Metricon. And
Now, West Coast have just been appalling.
they've been in absolute tatters at the moment. They had a good little patch in the third quarter against Port for about 8 or 9 minutes where we thought, okay, this is the West Coast of old. They might.
But you need 4 quarters.
Exactly.
To beat
You can't have an
opponent.
8 or 9 minute patch, and they just went back to their.
Okay, so who do you think may well get up and show the points?
Sydney have been okay. They haven't been anything to jump around though. Surely this has to be the week. West Coast just get up and get a win. I'm tipping West Coast.
Next game?
Geelong against Gold Coast down at GMHBA. That's
Okay.
as I said earlier on. This is Gold Coast's first real test, first real travelling away from Queensland.
And there's another component here, a couple of stories, backstories. 300 games for one of the most wonderful players that Geelong Football Club has ever had.
Yep.
Young man who basically was the rookie of the year in his first year. He won the premiership with the Cats.
Yep.
We're talking about their captain.
Mr. Joel Selwood.
Yeah, Joel Selwood, who's been a terrific representative and ambassador for the club.
Yep.
300 for him. But 350
For the other little master.
for the little master,
Gary
Ablett Jr., who, by the way, played for
Gold Coast.
Gold
It's
Coast.
just very ironic,
Wow,
isn't it?
wow, how life comes up to play you all these tricks.
Yeah.
What are you thinking? Will the emotion carry the Cats over the line against a pretty sharp-looking Suns, or will the Suns continue this terrific form and break a whole bunch of hearts in Geelong land?
A lot of people are starting to buy into the hype of Gold Coast. I am a little bit, but I'm not convinced just yet. If they can snare a win against,
Especially
down at the Cattery, they'll be legit. But
All right.
I've tipped Geelong. Next game, we've got the Lions and Port Adelaide. That's the match of the round down at the Gabba.
Yeah, both have been very good form.
Both have been really, really good. It's really a flip of the coin. I'm picking Brisbane just because it's at the Gabba, but.
So you've learned from the advice I gave you.
Yeah.
And the next one?
And then we go to the other end of the table, Adelaide against Fremantle, the two bottom teams.
Should they bother turning up?
Well, yes, because this could potentially be the wooden spoon game.
Oh no!
Could potentially be.
You can't be talking about the wooden spoon.
We can't be
this early in the competition.
We can't be. But both teams, well, maybe not so much Fremantle, but Adelaide have been.
They're in rebuild
really
mode.
poor.
They're in rebuild mode.
It looks like they've
So
already
who
thrown.
are you picking?
I'm
Fremantle?
picking Fremantle.
All right.
Yep.
And that's it, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
That
No
could be
Hawthorn?
Next game, we've got Melbourne against Richmond.
All right. Okay. Now, interesting game here. Richmond. They're supposed to be the premiers of the competition. They're not supposed to go through an early season slump, but they have.
Yeah, there's been a lot of background noise about them this week. Trent Cotchin's come out and said they're really struggling without the Tiger Army there. And now with this news of potentially going into hubs, Richmond have come out and said some players might not go into the hubs.
Wow.
I just feel like all this background noise that's on the negative side to them, it's clearly having an effect.
We hear more and more that at the very top end of sport, it's all played above the shoulders.
Yeah.
So it could be in between the ears, eh?
Yeah, exactly. I've tipped Melbourne in an upset, but you can't discount Richmond. They're the reigning premiers for a reason.
Is that the round, or is there one more game?
We've got one last game, and that's
Which is?
GWS against Hawthorn down at Giants Stadium in Sydney.
Now GWS bounced back
They bounced
against
back,
the
yep.
odds and
Yep.
showed themselves to be pretty tough unit to knock over Collingwood.
Yep.
Hawthorn, different kettle of fish again,
Yeah.
and they're playing where?
They're playing at Giants Stadium in Sydney, so I'm giving GWS the advantage because it's in Sydney, and
It's the home
they looked impressive. They held out strong for a fast finish in Collingwood. So
All right.
give GWS.
All right, mate. Let's see how your tips stand up.
Did a little bit better last week.
And
so.
commiserations that you think that the Carlton boys can't get up. You know what? I'm going to change my idea. You've gone so strongly for St Kilda. I'm going to say to you that Navy Blues are going to make it 3 wins.
Hope so. That'd be great.
There you go. You've heard it first.